So I want to talk, really about why we're in the situation we're in, where we're going, what we need to do. I'm going to speak up here. I'm going to speak my mind, following Dr. Martin Luther King's advice here, which is, we need to talk about the things that matter. So I want to first talk about, to me, the 5 most important things that we as a society have to do if we want to get control of this, if we want to move forward, and if we want to have any semblance of a normal or semi-normal life, economy, schools, etc. First and foremost, unity. I don't think any of us would disagree with the fact that we have a tremendous, profound lack of unity in our community today. I love this quote from Winston Churchill. It's written a little bit kind of old speak, but let me read it to you. My hope is that the generous instincts of unity will not depart from us, so that we become the prey of the little folk who exist in every country and who frolic alongside the juggernaut car of war to see what fun or notoriety they can extract from the proceedings. Doesn't that just describe the situation we are in today? Whether it's the press, whether it's the internet, whether it's snake oil salesmen that we see all the cures that they're purporting out there without doing a study. This is the situation we find ourselves in as a society today. And we as a group of people here on this call and in society, we have to change this if we are going to move forward. Unity is an absolute necessity to every single other thing that we need to do. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, we must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. So why can't we as a society pull together today and do the things we need to do? In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, unity to be real must stand the severest strain without breaking. Our unity as a country is being strained. Our country is being tested. Frankly, I think we're failing. And our will as a people is being tested today. We need unity. Going back 2,400 years to Alexander the Great, he recognized that the conduct of each of us determines the fate of all of us. We've known this for 2,400 years. Why can't our politicians learn this? Why can't we as a people learn this? We've become soft. We're treating this instead of like World War II, where everybody rallied together. In phase 1, we did that back in March and April. Instead of rallying together and doing what we need to do as a people to conquer this threat, we're acting like Vietnam. We're acting around a war that we don't want to be in, that we're debating whether it should be there, and we're throwing bombs at each other instead of at our threat right now. How sad is that as a country? We don't determine whether or not this virus exists. This virus came at us. This is like being attacked during Pearl Harbor. And I don't understand why we as a society cannot pull together and do the right things that we need to do to get this under control. We need unity. And I'll end this piece of my talk by a much more inspirational phrase here from Helen Keller, which is, together we can do so much. We can do this. On this phone and on this presentation here, we have leaders across the great city of Houston. We're Houstonians, we're Texans, we're Americans, and we're human beings, and we can pull together and we can show the leadership together, we can push our politicians, we can spend the money we need to spend, and we can demand the best out of all of our leaders to make sure that we can move forward together as one to tackle these issues. So now I want to move to 5 specific things that I think we need to do as a society. I mentioned this before. We acknowledge and recognize science, especially biological science, is incredibly messy in real time. Just look at those 2 pages of hydroxychloroquine slides that Dirk said, and at the end of the day, we still don't know the answer to that. This is the nature of science. Unfortunately, we have to do this in real time. Science is also the only hope we have to conquer COVID. There's a lot of hope in the slides you've seen, There's a lot of hope in what my colleagues have discussed today. There's a lot of hope in the fact that we have gotten mortality down like we have. There's a lot of hope that when we know the things to be done, we can get this in control. So let's listen to the scientists, let's listen to the physicians, let's tune out the noise and the voices on either end of the spectrum, and let's figure out how we as a society do the right thing. Now, many of you will have seen a letter I wrote, my president's letter in June, which I called the Sacred And. For me, for hospitals, and you've seen some of the data today, that is that we have a profound responsibility to care for the community, to be here for patients with COVID. We also have a profound responsibility to care for all other patients, and we have a profound responsibility to protect our staff and our physicians, whether that means the PPE, whether that means the fatigue and the burnout that they're experiencing, or whether that means their financial livelihood. All of those are noble goals, and we will unapologetically focus on each and every one of those goals. And I can't tell you how hard this is to communicate to the press, to the politicians, to the general public of what you heard today, which is we know how to care safely for people who need care, who don't have COVID. At the very same time, we are, killing ourselves right now caring for patients with COVID. Extremely importantly, and this is what we all need to demand, our political leaders have a sacred and as well. They need to figure out how to control COVID and listen to the scientists and listen to the physicians, and figure out how to protect the economy and figure out how to educate our children. These are not ors. These are not false choices that one side versus the other side are putting out there right now. They need to link arms. They need to figure out how to work together with the rest of us and figure out how to move forward and get this done so we can do this together as a society. A lot of you have asked questions about schools. There is no way on God's green earth that we can put our kids back in school at the levels of virus that we have here in our community today. It's not going to be realistic, I don't believe, to expect that, certainly with what we've done so far, that we're going to get that in control by mid to end of August. So I would expect we're going to need to have our children back in virtual school until we get this in control. But the goal needs to be get them back to school. The negative impacts and the social inequities that Dr. Nasir talked about are getting profoundly magnified by the fact that we can't get children back to school, by the fact that our economy can't be protected. The source of all of this is this virus, and there are things we can do together to control it and make sure we can do those other two. Our social lives are going to have to take a back seat to the sacred and. If there's one thing I think we've seen since we started to open up, now 2.5 months ago, it wasn't the opening of the businesses that were doing things safely. It wasn't getting people back to work. It probably wasn't even shopping or some of the other things like that. It was our social lives. Now, we sent out, and our politicians sent out, conflicting messages to all of society. So people heard, I shouldn't wear a mask. People heard, well, I should just do whatever I want to. And we got into those debates. And so we have to acknowledge and recognize bars, and our politicians need to figure out how you support these small business owners. They're incompatible with a pandemic. Probably, honestly, restaurants in person are as well, certainly at 75% and up levels like we got to. I will tell you, I personally still have not eaten at a restaurant, and I have no plans to. I take out all of the time to support restaurants that matter to me. We are not going to be able to have large gatherings, including sporting events, and we must figure out how to limit social gatherings. I talked about World War II. If we can do the things together as a society to successfully challenge an enemy during World War II, can't we do these simple sacrifices together to get this virus in control? And then finally, masks are a means to an end to accomplish the sacred and. Where we went so desperately wrong is that the people pushing the economy, who have a very fundamental, valid point, as I hope you've heard from me, to open our economy, get our schools back, were the very same people in many cases who said, well, yeah, but don't wear a mask. There's no reason to wear a mask. We've shown as a society we can't seem to accept this on our own. They need to be mandatory. We're going to need to keep them mandatory until this virus is in control, and we're going to need to put enforcement in place in order to do that. Certainly, I mean, this is the perfect cartoon to describe what we have out there right now about masks. You know, there was a study or a case report yesterday that came out that I saw on a hair cutter who found out that she had COVID. She'd had 139 clients go through her office during the time it was thought she was infected. She did everything right. She was wearing a mask. Her clientele were wearing everything she was wearing. They were wearing a mask. Not one of them got sick. We know this works. We know this can diminish transmission. We need to pull together to do this. So with that, a couple of questions y'all asked specifically about our people. One very lovely said, I'm concerned with how Houston Methodist staff, doctors, and nurses are faring. You know, if I was to be honest, I'll tell you one thing is they're fulfilling their God-given calling and they are doing just his work on earth. It is amazing to see them do that. But they're tired, they're fatigued, they deal with loss every day. They deal with challenging situations every day, and they look around at the community and they say, what is going on while we are watching somebody struggle to breathe and our community can't do something as simple as staying home, staying out of social situations, and wearing their mask? They're frustrated. They're disappointed, to be honest, a little bit. You probably hear that from me as well. And it's completely understandable. We need to support these heroic people. They cannot run this marathon for years on end. We need to find a way as a society to lessen this burden on these individuals. And you've also asked, how can we help? How can we thank them? I want to thank each of you for the amazing gifts you've given. We gave our Heroes Day out. We gave a $100 gift out with our Heroes Day. Meals have come in, cards have come in. But honestly, this phase 2, instead of feeling unity and feeling all the support, they see a lot of the division in society. They see the garbage out there on the internet. They don't feel that same level of support. So if anything you can do to help, I mean, it's as simple as a tweet, it's as simple as a social media post, it's as simple as a thank you note, it's as simple as some people getting together and buying meals for an ICU team. All of these different things that are happening, these folks need to hear your thanks and your gratitude because they're tired. They're seeing difficult situations. We've had 2 people under the age of 30 over the last 2 weeks pass away in one of our hospitals. One died within 5 hours of arriving. The other put up a fight for a couple of days and passed away. We have a young mother at one of our hospitals right now delivered twins and is intubated after delivering twins. This is the real deal, and people are getting extremely sick at all age ranges for our institutions. So I want to end with an up note, another quote from Martin Luther King, because while we have some finite disappointment in life, I am an optimist, and we can never lose infinite hope. I really believe we as a society, if we show unity, can get together, we can do the things I talked about, we can conquer this and we can figure out how we get our economy running consistently, how we get our children back to school, how we coexist with this virus for what's going to be a year to 2. It just is, and I think we've all seen that very painfully this summer that is the case. So thank you all for your tremendous support. May God bless you and keep you safe. Thank you.